make sure this is working right. Hopefully this is streaming for you guys at home. It's about to tick over 10 a.m. 90 waiting already, Dan. This is good. See if there's any questions coming in. Die Tether. Tether really divides people. They either love it or hate it. Okay, cool. We're working. We are live.
All right.
So Dan, it's been a long time since we've done a video.
Well, we did one that wasn't recorded.
That's right, actually, that's right. Recording errors. But since then, I've had a child, and Tether has had another round of, I don't know if we want to call it FUD, because it seems like there's a bit of substance to this today.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's definitely causing fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So that part's true for sure.
So I'll just whip through some articles for everyone at home. But basically, this news came out that, the first thing I saw was someone talking about a wick on Kraken, but we'll check that chart out in a little bit. But breaking that Tether and Bitfinex has been sued by the New York Attorney General, and Bitcoin doesn't budge is the title of this article. And then we saw another article that Bitcoin is starting to fall. Then we had the big boys coverage, so CoinDesk and Cointelegraph, talking about how Bitfinex covered $850 million in losses using Tether funds. So for those that don't know, Bitfinex and Tether are owned by iFinex. There's definitely a close relationship there. But do you want to talk about what you saw this morning, Dan?
So yeah, definitely the wick on Kraken. People were talking about it. 20% drop real quick. It was one market order. It happened on a 1-minute candlestick. And we even had some members inquire with Kraken support, is this real? Did this really happen? And they said, yeah, there was an order, triggered a bunch of stops. That happened at about noon Eastern time. And this article, the first that we saw posted, was about 5 hours later. So certainly happened well in advance. And the reaction to this article is some of the slowest reaction that I've seen. I've only been in the crypto space about 2 years at this point, but it's some of the slowest that I've seen.
Yeah, I think that would never happen in the stock market with all the bots watching Donald Trump's Twitter account and all that sort of thing. But yeah, as I said, I woke up this morning and also saw that Kraken wick and thought, geez, that's really weird. Didn't think anything of it. And then this sort of started to unfold 7, 8 a.m. Australian time. I know it's pretty late over there. But I guess the thing I want to highlight, having read as much as I can at the moment, is Crypto Capital is this company, a payment processor in Panama. And Bitfinex have had so many issues. We know that all crypto companies have issues dealing with banks. Think about what Bitfinex have been having to deal with. Thousands of customers around the world, all wanting different banks to withdraw money. So it's no wonder that they've had a lot of issues facing with the legacy system, but we know they haven't been transparent. We don't know if they've got all the funds there. So when they have to use these fringe payment processors, it turns out that Crypto Capital have been pretty scammy, or they've taken that money. So Bitfinex had $800 million locked up with them, and they couldn't get it out. It was frozen for whatever reason. And then they said, you know what? In terms of liquidity and to keep business going, we're going to reach into the Tether funds because we know that money's there. But then you start to get into, geez, is that not good business practice?
Yeah, and some of the other little details, again, just picking up details as they come in, not sure exactly what's fact at this point, but saw that they backed up what they were taking out of Tether with perhaps shares of their company as a bit of leverage or a bit of capital to back that up. But it's definitely a whole lot of uncertainty going on right now. And actually that the sketchy Panama company, what is it, Crypto Capital? Is that what? So I believe that they were in dealings with Quadriga as well. So you have that whole mess that played out. And of course, the first reaction when you see these kind of headlines is everybody panics, and that's why you get the dump like this. So it'll be very interesting to see how it all plays out over the next 24 hours as the news is digested, as the facts start to come out.
And back in 2016, when Bitfinex were hacked and we got a 36% haircut on our funds, they were repaying people with IOU tokens. They were paying people out with, as you say, shares and equity in the company and so on. So Bitfinex have had a pretty bad run, and there's lots of bad things happening in the crypto space. But so far, they have been the number one trading exchange platform for a couple of years. Maybe BitMEX is overtaking them now. But they've been through a lot, and they've been through a lot of big 90% corrections, and if they were running fractional reserves, I just think they would have been found out by now. The fact is they've kept that train on the line so far, even though they've had all these things going on around them. So I wish they'd be more transparent, but I just can't see that they'd be printing 300 million Tether out of thin air. I just don't see how they could keep that house of cards going for 5 years. But guys, let us know what you think below. And Dan, do you want to show everyone maybe that Kraken chart and that big wick that happened 5 hours before? That's just crazy.
Yeah, and I saw on Twitter, again, haven't backed it up yet with fact, but saw on Twitter that someone said that those Bitfinex funds, the hacked funds, moved for the first time this morning. Then we see the Kraken wick, and then we see this news. So here's the Kraken wick. This is the 5-minute chart, but it happened all on 1 minute candlestick, all the way down, huge drop, 20% or so.
And Dan,
right around 20.
And you said that if this was you and you'd found this out, how would you execute this order? Because this to us, it tells us something, doesn't it?
Right. So yeah, I mean, to the fact that this happens, if someone knows inside information and the market is not aware of it yet, you have time to act and to slowly scale out. If you're going to hit market sell for, let's assume it was just 1,000. This is 1,600, but we assume a lot of that stops triggering. But if you're going to market sell 1,000, you're going to get incredibly terrible slippage and incredibly terrible fills, as opposed to maybe market selling 100 and then waiting 5-10 minutes and then another 100. That allows the order book to fill back in a little bit, and it doesn't cause that much slippage. So as you speculated, maybe it's someone who doesn't really know exactly what they're doing in terms of placing an order or managing funds and getting out in a timely manner.
Yeah, well, this person was just super worried that everyone was about to dump at any minute now. But then if they had seen this chart and knew they had 5 hours to get out, they could have got an average price well above 5,000 if they had have just cushioned liquidity there instead of market dumping and triggering all those stops. But this is what I love about crypto, Dan. There's always something interesting going on. So do you want to go over and see what's happened now? How's things currently looking?
Sure. So first I want to point out the delayed nature of this news. So this news came out at about just after 5 p.m. Eastern. A member posted it in our chat room right about here at about 5:26. And I'm looking around at Bitcoin and I'm saying, where is this negative reaction? This is the most bearish news that I've seen in months. And someone else said, if this were a few months ago, we'd be down 10% by now. And then I looked on Twitter and I saw nobody on Twitter is talking about this. So I'm not sure how these bots missed this news, because we've seen these bots react to news instantly so often in the crypto space over the last couple of years. But this was just a complete miss. I posted the article on Twitter, and I'm not saying that I caused this volume, but I'm saying that once people with followers started circulating that article, then you see the volume and the reaction, and that's when things got really ugly. So in 15 minutes, we dropped down 8%, whereas in the previous 30 plus minutes that the article was out there, we only dropped 2%. So it was a very, very delayed reaction, and it was a laggard play that bears could have acted on seeing that news. Where we stand right now, we've got a potential 15-minute equilibrium. It's a clear tightening range here, and we're going to have to, again, I'm most interested to see how is this news going to get digested. Do we drop down to lower lows and break 4,900? Obviously, our temporary tops on the daily timeframes are in at this point. My guide has been the daily 12-period exponential, because that's been holding for 2 weeks, but obviously blew right through that level. And now the most important level for me is the low of April 12th, and that is 4,900 here on Coinbase. And if that level were to break, then I would say weekly consolidation is clearly underway, and we need to establish a new weekly higher low.
And if we compare this maybe on the weekly charts and whatnot, there was a lot of people talking about the similarities and the differences to the end of the 2015 bull market. And technically this one was maybe setting up a little bit stronger. And then we get this perfectly timed news. I think futures expired today as well for Bitcoin. So there is never a dull moment in this space, and it's a really pivotal time. And if this sees another leg lower, we're going to test some interesting levels on that weekly chart as well. And what's the averages looking to come in as support there, around 4,600 by the looks of it?
Yep, those are down. Let's see, we got the exponential moving averages. They're down 45, 46.
Awesome. Any other question, guys? Let us know what you think. But I don't think that this is the devastating Tether is insolvent news. This is just some bad bad acting, some stuff that's happened. I don't think this is the be all and end all that we'd really see a huge crash and go straight to new lows. And the other thing is the other coins, how they've reacted, as you said, Dan. Litecoin held up the best. You've got some theories on that, and then I might show the stable coins.
So yeah, we were speculating, people in the chat room speculating that perhaps people were exiting into Litecoin to transfer off of Bitfinex, but here we are heading right back down towards this low. So again, it's going to get very interesting to see if we do drop to lower lows. We're going to get more details and facts as things come to light, and as the Twitter and cryptoverse hash things out and try and pinpoint exactly what is going on. I don't think it's over yet in terms of weakness, but the fact that we are not under 5,000 right now is notable for me, and it's fairly impressive in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. When you consider that the current market cap of Tether, I'll just bring it up on screen for people at home, is 2.8 billion. If $800 million of that is gone, that's very, very significant. But if this was to happen a year or 2 years ago when we didn't have any other stable coins, that's when it would be really devastating. So we can see here that the other top coins, USD coin, TrueUSD, Paxos from Binance, so these have all jumped, 1 or 2%. So there's clearly money flowing into those. DAI is down 6%, which I can't work out why that is at the moment, but that hasn't been up near $1 for a little while. But yeah, pretty clearly money flowing into other stable coins, and something to keep an eye on as well.
It'll certainly be interesting from here. My game plan, I'll probably place some fishing orders very spaced out, very low, while we wait for this news to digest a bit.
And shorter term timeframes, Dan, so you think most likely scenario now is maybe a 15-minute equilibrium, and see how much we break, if we do break, and see if there's any meaningful volume on the next leg down compared to that big candle.
Yeah, I think we're about to test our lows sometime in the next hour or so.
Awesome. Any other questions, guys? Is there any other new news you've got? Share that. Someone's saying that Wabi's pumping 20%. It must be some pretty good news if any altcoins out there are pumping at the moment. What else has been happening, Dan? Have you been trading a lot lately, or you've been taking some time away? It feels like a while since we've spoke.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the opportunity is still there in these marijuana stocks, and that's where I've been hanging out and putting a lot of my time and effort. And I have been trading the cryptocurrency space more in the past 2-3 weeks than I have in the past 3 months. And that's because we got that bull break, and we did have just clear technical analysis again, 15-minute oversold climaxes. We're getting solid bounces. We were getting consistent 15-minute oversold bounces for a couple weeks. So that's the kind of trading environment where I will start to get my feet wet again and get back into the game. But I'm always looking for where am I going to focus for the most opportunity, and the volatility has been a bit better in the marijuana stocks still.
I think for us, we've had to go a little bit further down the list than we would have liked. So typically I prefer to trade the top 20 coins or whatever's on Bitfinex, but we've had to go down to find some hidden gems with good fundamentals, and they've had some big percentage gains off the lows recently, and that's exciting to see the fundamentals playing out. But they've got 340 watching live. Let us know if there's any other news coming out. There's some DAI FUD as well, apparently, so that explains why DAI is down. And we're testing those lows right now, Dan. Is it going to break while we're here live?
If it does, the most important thing will be, what does the dip buying look like on that new low? There are so many times where we will get that lower low, and then that's the bottom, the second push down. So if we get a new low and then a long lower wick and the bulls start to show up again, then that will be very telling for me that a temporary bottom for the night is likely set. And of course, you're in the daytime, so depends where you're at.
And overall, Dan, what are your thoughts about crypto winter versus are we coming into crypto spring? I know you made a great call early on in 2018 about likely to be an equilibrium to play out, and then we did break down. I think if you look at the chart patterns, you'd have to say that there's been a lot of good volume coming in. We're forming uptrends. It actually all looks pretty good, even though no one really wants to say the bottom's in. Yeah,
we just did a Twitter vote, and out of 2,500 people, 2/3 thought that the Bitcoin bottom was in. So it was pretty split, two-thirds and 1/3. And if I had to guess, I would probably say it's in. And the reason for that is just the weekly trend. I mean, you had such a brutal, clear weekly downtrend for so long, all of 2018 from the all-time high. And to finally see that trend change, I have to put a lot of weight into that. So if I were forced to choose, fortunately, I am not forced to choose, but if I were, I would place a bet that the bottom is in. And like we were discussing earlier, there are coins that can easily hold up their support, even if Bitcoin does break to lower lows, Litecoin being probably one of the most popular ones, just because the bounce has been so much more significant percentage wise.
Yeah, and if you look at those moving averages, as you say, they acted as clear resistance, and then the big candle with the big volume to make a statement, say, okay, we are over those now. That's another really good sign. And if there's other charting software that lets you look at the total market cap and altcoin market cap, and that has even been a steeper, aggressive buying, increasing volume on the breakout. Altcoins, the good altcoins, up hundreds of % off their lows. It would be pretty brutal if they were to roll over and go all the way back down. So I think chances of the good altcoins being bottomed is even higher.
And like we said, this is the most bearish news anytime recently. So if we can recover from this and just set a healthy weekly higher low, again, we haven't even broken the pattern where we have a higher low every week for the last 5 weeks. So as far as I'm concerned, weekly consolidation hasn't even started yet. If we break that 4,900 level, that weekly consolidation will be underway. But if we're able to absorb this potentially scary bad news and still hold a solid weekly higher low, that will make a statement to me as well.
And what are you looking at and what are you expecting around the $6,000 range? Because I think my base case now is that we likely chop sideways and just cool off for a few weeks or maybe even a couple of months, because it was such tough support for so long. I think it's going to be hard work to break through.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much price action in this area where that big equilibrium had formed, and 57.7 was resistance, 59, so support, I should say, previous support, now resistance. So not surprising the initial attempt. I would have been stunned if we broke that level on our first attempt. So that's a very clear previous support, now resistance. And like I said, if we absorb this bad news and form a higher low, really anywhere in the mid 4,000s, and then if we can recover from it and see continuation up towards 6,000, I think that will be a powerful statement that will make a lot of people that are right now saying we need to head back and see a Bitcoin lower low. If we get a weekly higher low and higher high out of all this, I think a lot of people will change their tune.
So just in summary, guys, for 355 watching, I don't think that Bitfinex and Tether are necessarily the bad guy here. I think it's Crypto Capital, who was meant to be one of their trusted payment processors, had $700 or $800 million, froze those funds, and to keep businesses going, and so customers weren't waiting, they drew on funds that were also theirs, which is, it's questionable, but everything in crypto is just the Wild West. But we don't know if they're completely insolvent or if this is all going to be fixed, but this is what's been thrown around at the moment.
Yep, never a dull moment.
Well, Dan, I know you've got to get off to bed soon. Any final thoughts for everyone at home?
Final thoughts are always have a game plan, as always. Whether you're going to be looking to buy the dip, whether you're going to be trying to protect your funds, have a game plan, write it down in front of you so you're not reacting to your emotions in the middle of the moment. And that is going to keep you most prepared in whatever scenario we get.
Well, thanks for joining us, Dan. I'll let you go to bed. Guys, I might stay on the line and take a few questions and whatnot and see if we get another break. But I know you've had a very long day, Dan, so I appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm sure you will keep everybody in good hands.
Cheers, mate. Have a good night.
See ya.
Okay, guys. Well, let's bring up the chart. Let's see if we get another low. Fire away if you've got any questions. If any good tweets or news come in, place them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that on my other screen. Sell in May and go away. that is a saying in the crypto space. Interview Bitcoin Ben. He's made videos about this happening months ago. Guys, there's been videos about Tether floating around for years. I've been trading on Bitfinex for 4 or 5 years now, and every year there's something bad comes out about them. Someone's saying 50 million in longs were just liquidated. Are we talking on Bitfinex or are we talking on BitMEX? Let's just refresh this screen here, guys, and then I'll bring up my compare chart and we'll take a look at the longs. Let's type in longs, Bitcoin longs. So Bitcoin longs on the daily chart were relatively low in the grand scheme of things, and they've been smashed lower. And guys, this is what I like seeing if we are to head higher. It's much easier for this chart to head higher when the longs are near record lows. When everyone is leveraging up and hoping that it's going to go up, it tends not to have the big move. And as we see here, all these people that were betting it was going to go up, they unwind their positions, and then we can have a bigger move. So that's really important. Let's just compare the shorts as well. And let's just go to a shorter time frame. Did anyone front run this a little bit? So we saw a few people come in here and say, we know it's about to drop. We know it's about to drop. And then it gets the huge drop, and that's when all the shorts pile in. Let's have a look how that is relatively on the daily time frame. So it's still a long way from the highs. And again, these shorts tend to do the wrong thing at the wrong time. So shorts at all-time highs, then we have a pretty sharp rally that liquidates a lot of them. So I'll remove all that clutter off the chart, guys, but I have recently done a detailed video on shorts versus longs and how you can use that to your advantage as a trader in our private Facebook group. So guys, can someone share with me the DAI news? DAI maker. Let's see if I can find anything that's breaking. Leadership conflict over direction fuels multiple departures. Okay, so the block tend to write more controversial articles. Maker has dropped the hardest of all the stable coins. So Maker has seen a faction seeking to make the entity more decentralized break away in recent months. Divisions of how to fund over 200 million should be allocated to push to several people, including board members. Maker is in the process of purchasing a broker-dealer license. Okay. So Rune is a guy I've had on the channel before. A little bit of controversy. I will talk to the Maker team, guys. I am very good friends with a couple of the team. One of them is an Aussie guy, so I will make sure I talk to him today. And in my weekly wrap-up news we do every Sunday night, I will let you know what's going on with Maker, because we never want to see teams having a fallout. Let's go to the 5-minute chart if we are going to get this next leg down. And guys, if we just zoom back out to the daily chart, I know everyone says technical analysis doesn't work. I've had these time cycles on my charts for years, and it is funny how often they predict things. So look at this right here, to the day. We're going to get this sell-off, and I said that we've seen some right-hand translations recently, which means we go up for the majority of the length of the bracket, have a little pullback, and that's what we want to see if we're going to have another leg higher, and then we have this pullback here. So if this was to get really nasty, it would continue into the next couple of days, and that's when this would, in theory, with our time cycles, tell us that weakness is going to remain to the 13th of May, and that's when I'd possibly be looking at these lower fib levels, the 200-day moving average, the 50-day is going to come into play here. It's funny how this has all just happened, released the day after the Golden Cross, when we tend to get retail and new investors get too excited. Every YouTuber out there is making a video about this Golden Cross and how important it is. You guys know that I don't put a lot of weight in these things. The market is made up of lots of different participants. They all look at different things. Everyone's trading on what they believe in. So you can't say that one thing works, one thing doesn't. You can't say that news doesn't move markets. Guys, everyone invests on their own, their feelings and their own sentiment. And sentiment is what ultimately drives markets. New court documents listed with Supreme Court of New York make it pretty clear that Bitfinex was deliberately misleading customers. Okay. Any Monero specific news if you guys want to post in the chat. So for me, guys, Twitter is a great resource, but also just going to Google and just searching the news. And these articles normally pop up. If there's anything that's come out today. No, okay. Let's head over to Twitter and see if there's anything going on with Monero. Are you sure there's FUD, guys, or is someone just leading me on in the comments? Latest Monero news on Twitter. Privacy coins Oh, okay. Report India considers complete ban of. That's not privacy coins. Privacy coins are so important for the ecosystem, but as an investment, super risky, guys, because we've already seen Japan crack down on them. Golden Cross hasn't happened on the EMA, just the simple moving average. That's a good point. Okay, so let's zoom back out to the daily chart and have a look at what Nathan is talking about. So on my settings here, I've got the simple moving averages. So this is just basic moving averages. Can I bring this up? Whereas on the, I think my daily lines are my exponential. No, that doesn't have the right settings at the moment either. Sorry, guys. Basically, the exponential moving averages puts more weight in the latest data and does consider more data to get the 200-day moving average or the whatever period you're looking at. So these green and black lines are the 250 moving average, simple moving average. And if we go into the 4 hour there, you'll see that it becomes relevant for that time frame. So we're talking now in lots of 4 hours. In this example here, we'd be talking about the 200-hour moving average. So it's relative to whatever time frame you're looking at. For a quick lesson in how moving averages works. But that's a great example and a great question of how some traders have their settings on the moving averages, as I do, and others have them on the exponential moving averages. And I tend to use those for the shorter time frames because I think that's more relevant. But again, different traders look at different things and will trade upon that. Maker must succeed. I think it's so important for crypto because we don't want all these banks. And someone raised a great point. Let's bring up this list of stablecoins again. When we have a look at all these coins, look at the top 4 here. These are all bank coins. Now, we know that if these guys have supposedly got, whether it's 2 billion or 200 million in the bank, banks keep fractional reserves. So there might only be 20 million in whatever bank they've got this deposit as, because banking and fractional reserves mean that they don't have to keep it. Banks lend it out. Banks speculate on other assets. This is what brought about the GFC, guys. So this really does my head in. It really makes me angry. Crypto is all about decentralization for the early adopters, particularly. That was very much the ethos of the movement. And now we have all these bank coins with money in banks. They can censor and stop your transactions at any time. You'll try to withdraw from Coinbase and they'll say, where'd you get that money? What's that for? All these sort of rules, they'll crack down on you. And on top of that, the bank doesn't actually have the reserves. So if Bitfinex or TrueUSD try to withdraw all that money at once, the bank's going to say, sorry, we can't let you do that. Or, it come up with all these excuses, just like if you've ever tried to withdraw a large amount of money out of a bank. So that is why we see so much tension on the on-ramps and off-ramps and why Bitfinex has so many issues, because they have to deal with banks and the traditional finance system. Oh, this is a pretty weak looking little 5-minute candle here, guys. I've got a feeling we're going to roll over. And this is a really important fib level. So that's why I had this chart up. This held for a lot of this move off the lows here when this was our high. Then we made this new high. And this is now the fib level from the bottom of, well, what we're hoping is the bottom. Next level down, if we lose this as well, it's going to probably get down to 4,700 pretty quickly. I'm happy to stay on for a little while. I've got a board meeting with Blockchain Australia and ADCA in half an hour. Haven't had any breakfast yet, but crypto doesn't give you that opportunity, does it, guys? It's always on demand. Banks consider 5K a large amount of money to withdraw. Yeah. Why would the USD pair be selling off harder than the US dollar pair for Bitcoin on Binance? So that was a good question. So people are sort of asking why is, if Tether's selling off, theoretically it should be going down in price to like 90 cents, let's say. Shouldn't that push the price of Bitcoin up? Well, the reason that that's not the case is because the Tether let's just refresh. The Tether trading volumes are somewhere in the tune of $13 billion today. That's pretty crazy compared to 15 billion crypto Bitcoin trading volume. So that's actually a lot higher than I thought, and really relevant. But the market is digesting this as bad news. So it's not people just selling. If you sell US dollar Tether, you've got to go into something else. And people at the moment aren't selling to go into Bitcoin. Maybe they are a little bit, but you have to remember that overall this is bad news for the crypto space, for Bitcoin ecosystem. So that's why Bitcoin is selling off rather than going up in price. I hope that makes sense. Do I like avocado on toast? Love avocado on toast. Banks don't have cash anymore. We did a video about the cashless society the other day, guys. I highly recommend you watch that. Too many people are sheep, just walking through life and not understanding anything that's going on around them, how to protect their wealth and their family and ensure their future. Thanks for all the questions, guys. Thanks for tuning in. 330 watching live. Pretty awesome. I'm sorry it had to be under bad circumstances. If you're not a subscriber, guys, I do always try to jump on live whenever there's big news or bad news. Either way. In Australia, we tend to get a lot of news when it is the night time in the US. And whether or not that is people and whales deliberately trying to execute the news when most of the traders in the US are asleep, because most of the volume comes from the US. That's just fact. And Bitfinex, 100 times leverage. A lot of the trading volume comes from there now. And even though US customers aren't meant to use it, I'm sure a lot of their volume comes from US and Europe, that side of the world. And if people can dump some good news or bad news when everyone's asleep, they get to take advantage and liquidate other people on Bitfinex. So we're very lucky in Australia that we tend to get good trading opportunities. Yeah, those trading volumes are fake. Jack makes a good point about that. So let's head over to on-chain FX and have a look at their trading volumes. There's a lot of good other sites out here. CoinGecko is another one. Wow, so 780 million. Wow, that's a lot more realistic. Let's go down to Tether, 21 million. So, guys, I believe these numbers far more than I believe those other numbers that are completely pumped up by all these. A lot of them are Asian-based exchanges that claim to be second and third biggest exchanges in the world by volume, and no one's even heard of them. So always be sus when you read stuff about volume and data, particularly for altcoins. What happened to Crypto Crasher? I'm not sure what you mean about that. I did a collab with Crypto Candor just before. Is that who you mean? The crypto tax loop about buying goods and services for crypto, would that include bullion? If you buy crypto with the intent to buy the bullion, it's all about your intent. But again, speak to your tax advisor. Thanks for liking the video, Maple Hedgehog. There's some good documentaries about maple syrup. If you guys don't know about maple syrup, it is worth more than oil per barrel, and there's all these thefts and this underworld maple syrup documentaries. Interesting. Any thoughts on Olga or Rep? Yep, they've just put out version 2 of their system. There's a lot of people building front ends for their system now. So a sports betting company, Vail, they're integrating Olga, so you'll be able to make bets on Twitter if you've got your MetaMask or some sort of browser there. So Olga is definitely one that I own and I still like. Thoughts on the Australian Stock Exchange? I think the ASX is breaking out to new highs, isn't it? And this doesn't make sense to me. The Australian economy, that's the stock ASX, isn't it? So I want the market. If anyone wants to let me know, guys, what's the ticker for the ASX? I always get this confused. This is that looks better. It's around 5,900. That's the weekly. Yeah, this is better, guys. This looks like the product we want. So it hasn't broken its all-time highs from back in 2007, but it's breaking out to new highs, new yearly highs. And the Australian economy, I don't think is, there's so many areas that look really weak. I think we're about to cut rates. I think we're about to do what the rest of the world has been doing, like Europe and US, China, Japan. We're about to print a lot of money and drop interest rates to zero. And that is going to present so many opportunities that should push the price of Bitcoin up in Aussie dollars as the Aussie dollar gets weaker. I've done my documentary on where I see everything heading, the coming Australian financial crisis. So please check that out if you haven't already. Okie dokie, let's just zoom back in. Bitcoin looks like it wants to roll over any second now. We've just had the 5-minute moving averages catch up there. XJO is the actual indicator. Thank you. I think that should be the same chart as we just looked at. Yep, thereabouts. Australia's economy peaked back in 2007 when we were exporting crazy amounts of minerals to China, and we've never recovered since, where the US markets have maybe 20 or 30%. Data on the SPX not available. What's going on there? Okay. If we zoom out and have a look at the market in 2007, it was at 1600 in America, and it's just about double. So that shows you how much stronger the US markets are. But let's go and have a look at Bitcoin. He's going to roll over. Should you buy Binance Coin? So this is one that I've done a lot of research on and a lot of talk about, a lot of trading of this one in our private Facebook group as well. If you want to join that, guys, all the links in the description below. But basically, you should never chase a coin. So, back here when we were talking about this one and we did a video on YouTube about it for you guys saying that Binance has got a really bright future. They got lots happening in the coming months. It's going to perform well. And then it goes from $4, $3, whatever it was, crazy, to $26. So you've got to realize that now you are late to the party. It's probably not the best time to invest. Binance has pulled back to its moving averages, which is the first place that we sort of thought it would. It's moved back to there every time. And then if you want to look for a really long-term entry, it might pull back to its weekly moving average. Now, maybe it doesn't. If it starts to trend higher, maybe you buy a little bit, but I wouldn't be buying a lot of any coin that's gone up 500%. And if it keeps going and you miss out altogether, so be it. That is the better percentage play than to continue to pile into something that has had an enormous run. Charts tend to not just go up like this without having some sort of correction. And long term, Binance is going to continue to go higher as long as their exchange keeps making crazy amounts of money. I don't see why not. They're innovators in the space. But to be honest, I did a video the other day for our premium members saying that I don't like a few things that Binance has done lately. Greed had people believing Tether while it was clear something was going on. This has been said for 2 years. Yeah, I kind of understand what you mean, Hank, but at the same time, people have been saying bad stuff about Bitfinex and Tether for 5 years, and it's the number one trading platform. It's got the best trading engine, the most tools, the most orders you can use. All the big whales that I know trade on Bitfinex. Well, guys, there's still 300 watching. We've been going for a fair while now. I've got to have some breakfast. I have got to head over to my board meeting with the guys at Blockchain Australia and ADCA. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Thanks for tuning in. Smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. But I will talk to you guys again soon. Cheers.